Welcome to the Vertical Shift Podcast, where we engage in candid conversation about life topics and real issues from a Christian perspective. I am not Justin.
I'm glad. And I'm Jeff.
And I'm Tommy.
All right. Justin's not here with us, guys. He's out again.
It's like if you had a three-legged stool, like most stools have three legs, well, what happens if you miss a leg?
Yeah.
It falls down, but we're...
I was trying to think of something clever. I couldn't think of it.
But
he's letting us down, basically, is what we're trying to say.
Well, last week, we have a rising star replacement.
We do. So, Justin, if you're listening.
He better be listening.
You think he is? He should.
He should.
He better if he knows what's good
We
for
can
him.
look and see if he's listening.
That's true. That's true. We can track him.
So, Jeff, I feel like the last 3 or 4 recent episodes we've started off by, all right, well, Jeff's back in the country.
Back in town. Yeah.
So yet another
trip.
International trip.
Yeah.
This time, I know where you went. I've been there.
Right.
But you went to like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell?
Yeah, so we just got back. So if you remember my story, my family and I, we served with the International Mission Board in Leticia, Colombia. We were there for 5 years. My daughter was born there. And this place has an incredibly special place in our heart for obvious reasons. But, I've been able to go back a couple of times since we've been back in the States. And we've been back in the States 8.5 years now. And I've been able to take my oldest son and then my second son. And then my daughter was excited to get to go, and then the pandemic hit. And so we haven't been back in 4 years because of all the complications with that. And so they just opened everything back up. And so we were super excited to be able to get to go back. And so my wife and I were talking, and we kind of pitched this idea of doing a women's trip because my wife and my daughter were going to get to go. And so we put it out there, and before I could even blink, it was full. And even beyond what I was desiring to take. I think the largest group we've ever had, Tommy, was like 7 maybe. And 10 had signed up. So I went on to kind of close the registration, and 3 more had signed up. So we had 13 total that went. So it was me
That's a lot.
and 12 women. And so,
wow.
Yeah. So I didn't know what to take. Tommy, you've been there twice, right?
I was there the last time you went. It was a trip that
that's true. And so you went the last time, and it's not an easy trip by any means.
No, I feel like, though, that it's gotten easier for y'all. Like, when I went, it was rough. We'll talk why. We'll talk about that.
I'll give it to you. It was a little bit rougher, for sure.
Y'all, you found some better flights.
We did have better flights.
Yeah,
Okay.
You stayed in a nicer hotel in Leticia.
We did.
Okay. Yeah. When you got to the jungle, you found yourself in a nice house, or okay. A stretch.
That was a stretch.
A structure that was set up for y'all to put your hammocks.
Mm-hmm. He did have to build some extra supports for us.
Okay. Oh, well.
So
we're not going to get into that.
Right.
And then concrete walkway. Now, was the concrete walkway through the whole three hills? The 3 hills?
Village.
Right? And
it was pretty amazing.
And there are 3 hills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we didn't have that. We had to walk in dirt.
Is that really big of a difference?
I had to buy special shoes for that.
Oh.
Had
to.
Like North Face.
Right.
What's awesome. Really cool about Leticia, I'm actually trying to look it up, but you can tell me. So just so people understand the geography, it's in the southernmost tip of Colombia.
It's the Miami of Colombia.
Right. And it borders Peru and
Brazil.
Okay.
Yep.
I thought so.
Yeah, it's crazy because even, when we lived there, it was wild because over in Brazil, they had a frozen food store, and it was the only one there. So we had to go into Brazil to get it. So literally driving 3 miles.
Yeah.
New country.
Yeah.
New language.
Because they speak Portuguese.
New currency. New currency. Different time zone.
So that's kind of like, we're in the Memphis area.
Right.
And we could drive one way and go to Arkansas. We could drive and go to Memphis. Like, we're right there.
Right.
And it's a different country. It's a different language. All right.
That's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
But yeah. So so I took these 12 women, and it was really funny because, I talked to my buddy Nuncio, who lives in the village. He's the guy that I discipled and that the people of the village called as pastor. And I said, hey, listen, I'm going to bring 12 women. We're going to do women's ministry and children's ministry. And so we planned accordingly. I don't know how any clearer I could be, with those instructions. And so, of course, we make all these plans, who's going to teach what kind of craft we're going to do with the women and with the children, because they love all of that visual reminder kind of thing. And so night one in the village,
How'd that work out?
men showed up. And they were like, man, we're so glad y'all are here. What about us? What are you going to do for us? And I was like, ugh. But the Lord's so good.
You can't blame them for that, though.
I can't blame them for that because, I told Nuncio, but I don't know what Nuncio communicated, so
Probably doesn't matter because they want to, experience that too. And
absolutely. So here's the cool thing. So before we left, I thought, man, how cool would it be to get a portable projector and download The Chosen in Spanish?
oh wow,
And so I got it just in case we could use it, because we got several mission trips that were going on. And I was like, man, we could use this in different opportunities. So I was like, I'm going to go ahead and get it. So we got this really cool projector. And so night one is like right here on the spot. What about us? Well, we had this lady go on our team that also spoke Spanish. So we were able to split into 3 groups. So we had one group with the women, one group with the children, and now I could go with the men. But I didn't have anything prepared. I had prepared for the Sunday, right, to do the sermon, and this was Thursday night. I was like, okay, what do I do? And the Lord's like, I already have it prepared for you. Bring the projector. Let's watch the first episode of The Chosen. And I mean, I don't think the guys blinked. They loved it. It is so well done, so good. And as I watched it in the village, like it hit differently.
Yeah.
Like these guys are fishermen. That's what they do. And here they're watching the story of Simon, and
their village hasn't changed the way it looks for probably 100 years.
Right.
With a few minor upgrades.
And they fish with nets as well. Like all of it was so relatable to them. And one guy in particular, because the first episode doesn't end with them catching the fish, and he was like, I got to see that episode.
Yeah.
I want to see it. So I was like, well, you got to come back and watch it. So, but man, it was so good to do that, and the way the Lord orchestrated all of that. And I'm going to share with you my favorite part of the whole trip is the second night, because the first night I wasn't prepared, right? So my phone battery was almost dead. So we got almost through the first episode, and then my phone cut off. So the projector went off. And I was like, well, you got to come back tomorrow if you want to see the rest of it. So they came back. We finished the episode. It only had like 15 minutes. And I was like, all right, I'm going to take the rest of this opportunity to do the 3 circles and share the gospel with these guys. Because some of the guys were new. Some were really young guys. And so I got up and I do it. I can't really preach or teach without using my hands and being a live illustration of some sort. So I shared the whole story, the 3 circles with them and the separation between us and all of that. And I go through that and I just challenged them, because it was a group of about 12 men. Mm-hmm. And I was like, guys, look, you have a unique opportunity. Like, this is what we're doing in the States with our guys group, is men are struggling with things and they don't want to say it out loud because they're ashamed. And so they live in this fear that they're the only ones. And so I said, all right, right now, how many of you will confess that in your lifetime you've struggled with alcohol? Raise your hand. And the overwhelming majority raise their hand. How many of you have struggled with drugs? Raise your hand. Once again, same thing. I said, so you can see right now that you all have a past of things that you've struggled with. You can help each other by being accountable now. You know each other's weaknesses. This is what we have to do. We have to be humble in order to come together and to really move forward in these things. So let's talk about the things that we are wrestling with. If you're struggling in your marriage, if you're struggling with your children, like, talk about those things. It's okay to have questions, And so this culture in particular, as you know, Tommy, you've been there, men, even in the church, like men would sit on one side, their wife and kids would sit on the other side. It took me a year to figure out who was with who.
Right.
And it was just so different, you know? And so men went out, they hunted and fished, and that was it.
Yeah.
And that farmed, and women were responsible for the household.
Well, they also made the thatch roofs with the.
That's true, they did. But as far as rearing the children,
I
right?
know.
Come on, Tommy. Anyway, so they just did not, they were not going to teach their children anything. That was the mom's job. And so I shared this stuff, and then this one older gentleman, probably in his 60s, he said, he raised his hand. He said, Jeff, I need to share something. I was like, okay. He said, I need to ask for your forgiveness. And what a lot of the guys there didn't realize is that, when we were there.
How long ago? Sorry.
So I've been back in the States 8.5 years now.
Yes, and you came straight out of the jungle to here.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when time came for them to select a pastor, this particular man, whose name was Clarindo, he wanted to be the pastor, felt like he should have been. He was older, but the people there chose Nunzio because of the life difference that he lived. Jesus just
Authentic.
overflows in his life. He's not the most knowledgeable in Scripture, but he loves the Lord, and it's just evident. And so they were like, we want him. Well, I think he grew bitter from that, and because I had discipled Nunzio, I think he kind of threw me in that equation as well, and as the reason he didn't get it. And so just some bitterness was there, and then the enemy used that to separate him from the Lord. And so he chose alcohol and bars and all kinds of stuff in the life that goes with that, and just ran from the Lord. And anyway, the Lord got a hold of him and convicted him and brought him back and restored him. And he said, Jeff, you're one of my pastors. And I was lying in bed thinking, how am I ever going to get to see Jeff again and make this right? And he said, and here you are. So I want to ask you in front of all these men, will you forgive me?
Wow.
And then he looked at all the men and he said, I know I've done this already, but I want to ask you again, will you please forgive me for the path that I chose, for running from the Lord and setting a bad example? And then he looked at me and he said, so I got one question for you. What do I do now? Because people mock me and make fun of me because I'm back in the church. And I said, well, man, you do what you're doing right now. You restore those relationships that you've broken. You make those right. And then you consistently pursue the Lord. And over time, people will see the realness, the authenticity of your faith. And so, man, that just was so beautiful to see that happen.
And that is really rare for a man in that village. We're talking, I mean, it's rare in America.
Right.
We're talking about the middle of a jungle of the Amazon rainforest.
Macho.
There are macho
culture.
men, right? And for him to admit wrong,
weakness,
perceive weakness. That's really a strong guy. But
I mean,
yes,
his weakness
that's
of running to sin and what he did, anything that you're ashamed of, you just don't bring it up.
No.
And for him to do that was so powerful, and these men witnessing it, even the young guys, was awesome.
One thing I want to go back to and ask you about. So you had you and the group had these plans. You had people ready to teach certain groups, a women's group, a children's group. Yet then you had the men come in. Mm-hmm. So you had to kind of break away from what you were going to do.
Right.
But that was really only possible because you had another one in the group who spoke Spanish.
Right.
And that's just another way how God orchestrates and works behind the scenes. Now, did she speak better Spanish than me and Justin?
Who doesn't? I'm just saying. So just because you can order a meal at Taco Bell does not mean you speak Spanish.
Well, I bought a shirt. I mean, I did some successful speaking, but the weird thing is they think that I should speak Spanish. Like that's true. They being the people in Colombia just come up and talk to me, and they look at you like want me to interpret for you.
Right.
It's the opposite here, because you're like the white guy,
right?
And I'm not.
You're not. You look like you could be one of them.
A villager.
Yeah, man. So yeah. It was cool because we all went with a specific plan. And I told the ladies before we went, I was like, listen, it's good to plan. It's good to be organized when we go. I said, but you've got to understand that plans change, and you've got to be okay with that. If things don't work out according to what you have envisioned in your head. So just go with, things could shift around, right? And here we are, day one, and it's like, we need a men's group. So even that alone, just shifting that around. But what that did, so here's the deal. So I went with Nunzio from house to house when we got there, and we're inviting people. Hey, we're here. We're having a gathering tonight for women and children. The men come. And so we start doing all of that. And one of the guys was like, and he's the former chief of the village. He was probably the chief when you were there. And his daughter, adult daughter, was really struggling physically, had gone through some really rough stuff, had lost a ton of weight and just felt unhealthy. And then with that comes just kind of some struggle, depression, and not understanding what's going on and just feeling frustrated. So he asked us to pray over her right there. And so we did. They came, listened to the message. And the next day we said, hey, listen, we're going to be set up in the church. We're going to have a medical clinic. We had 2 nurses with us. I was like, just come. And so they came eager. And when they got in there, she's like, I really want to speak privately. And so my intuition said, hey, she needs to talk to women, right? So I got my wife and another lady, Angie, who was the nurse, to go separate with her. And she shared all of her struggles and everything that was going on physically, but also spiritually, emotionally, that she was going through. And I could just see from a distance, she was weeping uncontrollably.
How old do you think? How old was she?
I would say late 20s.
Okay. And Erin, your wife, she speaks fluent Spanish.
She speaks Spanish.
Yeah.
Great. She did a great job.
Yeah.
And so they just got to comfort her, give her, practical things to do physically, but also just prayed over her. And you could just see in her countenance just the change. And she came back the next day just with a big smile on her face, and just to see all the things taking place. And all the ladies just really bonded with her and felt for her. But through that, right, she comes, her parents come because they want help for their daughter. Well, they come every night and they're hearing the message. And I asked another lady who draws, I was like, hey, listen, when I preach on Elijah, I want you to draw the illustration behind me. And so she had 9 pieces of paper, and she drew pieces of the picture on all of those. And then she took them over behind me and put them up together, so it made one big picture. And so it captivated their attention. They were watching her, they were listening to me, and all of it kind of made a visual and made sense. And her dad got up afterwards and was like, I have never heard that story before. And man, that's unbelievable that God would do that to show himself to be the true God. And so all of those things are happening, and you look at how God orchestrated that our team, put our team together. Those things happened. We have an extra translator that frees me up to do this, to go visit, to engage the daughter with a medical clinic. We took 2 nurses that opened up the door. We used an artist, like all those things to communicate the gospel. And those things are so cool to me. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, we could never put that together in our own way. Prayer is, it's a big part of, in the village, they don't have the medical necessities. And so prayer is like one of those things where it's heavily relied on for those who believe. And I remember when we were there, they brought that young girl to us. She was sick, high fever.
Right.
And the parents were just desperate. Please pray over her. And we did. And I just never forget the next morning they were.
Well, I mean, I remember looking at y'all's faces nobody asked us to do this ever before. This is new,
right.
Okay. I know they did that in scripture, but
yes,
they're
that's
really,
right.
You know what I mean? They're bringing them, because we go to prayer as a last resort usually. Right. Yeah. And they come as their first. And so they brought that child and we prayed over her as best we could. Right. And the next day that baby was healed.
And that does more for my faith,
right.
Our faith, to see God.
Yeah.
And it's just,
and God doesn't do that because we're more faithful. He does it because he's trying to reach those people. That's what's amazing.
And I think he does it to also help build our faith.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
So, let's talk a little bit more about some geography here. Just people listening there. thinking about what this looks like and what this is. So Leticia is also known as the gateway to the Amazon.
Right.
And what you do is you have to, like this village, there are no cars, there's no road, there's no way there but by the water, and it's literally on the banks of the Amazon River. But in Leticia, which is a fairly decent sized town given the area,
Sure.
what's the population if you had to guess?
30,000?
Okay. So you've got
Feels like 5.
You've got one of the best restaurants I've ever eaten at, by the way.
Food's amazing.
Cali Pollo. So anyway, but you will take a taxi, a boat taxi, a speedboat taxi
Right.
to the furthest. So this like speedboat taxi will stop at these community. You know, it's like riding a Greyhound bus, but on the river.
Right.
And in order to get to the village that you go to, you have to take it to its last stop, and that's
Right.
Puerto Nariño.
That was close. I'll give it to you.
Puerto Nariño. No.
Puerto Nariño. Nariño.
Puerto Nariño.
That was
Nariño.
still bad.
Okay.
But anyway.
And that's a fun, I mean, for me, like
Yeah.
you're on
The Amazon.
Amazon River,
Right.
pink dolphins and all.
Right.
You guys had a little different, I mean, you probably took the same boat I took.
Same boat. So I felt like, especially with a group of women, like I'm just like, hey, listen, it's fine. You're going to be fine. I've done this a million times, right? So one lady in particular, I give her a shout out. Angie Durbin this was her first experience really overseas, and then to be this extreme. And so, you know, she was real nervous about the boat and getting motion sickness, right? And I was like, it's not like being in the ocean. You're on a river. Like it's real
it's like a
smooth.
speedboat.
You're fine.
Wind hitting you.
So she, you know, had little Dramamine patches behind her ears and stuff just in case. And so we go up the river. Everything went just like it always does, you know, easy peasy. Get there, spend the 3 nights in the village, and then we come back and we get on that speedboat again from Puerto Nariño. And as soon as we pull out to go, you could see just a sheet of rain across the Amazon. And she's like, oh my goodness, it's raining. And I was like,
Yeah, they put the plastic. Or
they've
whatever.
got plastic side, like it's got a top on it. It's got plastics on the
All
side.
your
so-
luggage is up there.
Yeah, well, it's covered too, so you're good. And so I was like, it's fine, Angie. I've done this 100 times with it raining, like not a big deal. So we let the flaps down.
When
Well,
you're in the rainforest, it's going to rain.
right. And so we let the flaps down, but you can't see, and so you could see kind of some panic, like I can't see where I'm going.
Some anxiousness.
It's nerve wracking. I was like, it's fine, I promise. The rain will stop here in a minute. We'll roll it right back up. Sure enough, we did. Rolled it up. Well, as we're going, this young, like maybe 10, 11-year-old boy walks up from the back and then has a conversation with our driver because he's in the front. The driver's in the front. And the driver looks over at his helper and says, go back with him. And so they go to the back. Well, then all of a sudden we're pulling off on the side of the Amazon. And I was like, well, this is new.
Yeah. You've never done this
You know,
before.
yeah, we're just randomly stopping on the side of the Amazon. And so we pull off and we notice that the back of the boat is filling up with water.
Ooh.
And so he's like, I need everybody to get off. And so we're like, okay. So we get off and I'm actually holding the rope to the boat as everybody's getting off. I'm just holding it to the side while they're working on whatever's going on. And then the helper comes running up from the back of the boat, jumps out of the boat and says, run. And I throw the rope down and take off running. And we look back, and back by the motor is smoking like something is on fire.
Oh.
And they grabbed the fire extinguisher, put it out. Well, what happened was the bilge pump got covered up and it was running dry. So water was filling in the boat. It's running dry. So it got hot. Anyway, we got it all worked out. It was a mess.
So they didn't have to bring another boat. They
Didn't have to bring another boat. He siphoned the water out with a tube, you know, with his mouth. And he was like, all right, y'all can get back on now. We're like, can we? You know, like, I'm not really sure.
All right. So where were the ladies when all this was happening? Had they already ran?
They were already back a little bit further from me.
Because remember, only 3 of you, your wife, and the
And
other
Micaiah.
person, that speak Spanish.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy didn't come off the boat yelling, run.
No.
He said, whatever.
Yeah.
Underlay. And
No.
no. But so they're sitting there and they say something. Okay, and then Jeff's running. Like,
Right.
okay, I better run too.
Yeah. I ran
But-
to them. They were further
And
back.
you're running in the jungle. Like, I mean, y'all didn't stop in no neighborhoods.
No.
You're
we
like-
were getting eaten alive. I felt bad
I mean,
for
you
the
were probably getting stalked by pythons and or
true.
the other was the anaconda.
Yeah. But no, the bugs were really bad. And the ladies had on shorts to come back because they were like,
Malaria.
Oh,
Now
we're
they all have malaria.
we're going to be on the boat. You know, you don't get bit by bugs while you're going 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour down the river. So, of course, they got out and they got eaten alive.
So, so back to the Puerto Nariño. So that's the last stop, but that's not where you get off.
No.
So that town is pretty cool. I mean, it's a small town, but it's pretty cool. Like, I don't know, that I really liked the architecture, just this painted, lively.
Sure.
They've got some shops, so you can buy some stuff there.
Right.
They actually have money. But Nuncio comes in the village boat, right?
Right.
From his village.
The Pecky Pecky.
The Pecky Pecky. So I was just let everyone know why they call it a Pecky Pecky, because that's how the motor sounds
Right.
when it goes down the water.
Pecky, pecky, pecky,
Peck,
pecky,
peck, 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 peck. And it ain't a speedboat.
No.
It is not a speedboat.
It is a very slow boat.
And that trip, how far is 12 de Octubre from? Did I butcher that too?
Yes, but it was awesome. Keep doing it. It makes me happy.
12 de Octubre.
12 de octubre.
That's exactly what I said.
You said, 12 de octubre. You said something like that. Anyway. So
distance wise.
Distance,
Because
I'm
I
not
tried to
sure.
look it up on the map. I
Yeah.
could see Puerto Nariño on the map, like my Google Maps. I can't find Dose.
Right. I mean, it's so remote.
Right, but I just don't know I know it's not in
The
Peru, so it's
speedboat-
really, you can see Peru from, right? It's like across the river.
Right. The speedboat goes, I want to say it's 60 kilometers from Leticia to Puerto Nariño. And it takes us 2 hours going upstream
Yeah.
to get there. It takes us 2 hours to get from Puerto Nariño to the village.
Yeah, but you're in a Pecky
you're
Pecky.
going 5 miles an hour.
Right. But,
So I don't know how many kilometers it is.
10
but
miles.
Yeah, maybe.
10, okay.
Yeah. It takes forever.
Yeah. So anyway, that's so when I went the first time, so I've been twice.
Yeah.
The first time I went, that was when we took my son. That was when we took the boys, right?
Yeah.
So we pull up. This was my first time there. We're on the Pecky Pecky,
Oh, yeah.
and we pull into their dock for the village, and the village is up on a hill,
Correct.
and then it kind of comes down to the river,
Right.
and they have a couple little boats there, but it's nothing fancy. Maybe a little wooden makeshift dock or something that
Floating dock.
yeah. And I remember thinking, because we had talked about, hey, they don't have like bathroom. So when I went, Jeff, it was a little more.
It was a little more rustic. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't have those government houses the center
Right.
block houses they came and built. They lived in literal shacks
Right.
and an outhouse and a hole. And I remember we talked about.
We went down the river to bathe. You had to bathe in the river. And we get in.
When we pulled up, there was people bathing in there, and they kind of
Right.
covered up, and
Sure.
it wasn't nothing.
Right.
But so we went down to bathe. But I remember, so we went up and put our stuff up there.
For those of you that don't know, Tommy's a little on the bougie side.
No, I'm not. Come on,
Tommy, you took a loofah at kids camp.
you just went on a different.
See, I'm just saying,
conversation.
if you're going to take a loofah
I
at
mean, I
kids
like
camp,
to clean. I'm gonna clean myself.
bougie. He's bougie, y'all. So anyway, we go down to the river to bathe. And it's really not to get clean as much as it
Well, it's
is
dirty
just
water,
to cool
but
off.
yeah, I mean that's fine.
But we stepped down into that mud and Tommy's
No.
face.
No. I remember I said, Jeff, because it dawned on me.
But you had already taken a couple of steps in.
No, but it dawned on me. It dawned on me. Wait a minute. We put our stuff up. I think I used the bathroom. Where does the waste go? And Jeff, you like looked in the water, like your eyes cut to the water, and you're like giving me the facial expression of like right there, like, and I'm like, no, I ain't doing it.
Right.
I'm not doing it. I'm not swimming in the sewage water.
So as Tommy turned around to make his exit promptly out of the river, I scooped up some
Mud, air quotes,
air quotes, mud,
mud,
and slung
threw
it
it
at
at
Tommy.
me. Wait a minute. Didn't just throw it at me. Like, it didn't hit me in the back, didn't hit me in the arm, didn't hit me in the stomach.
Yeah.
Hit me in my open mouth.
A piece of it.
A large chunk hit me in my... Okay, another piece hit me in my eye. Some hit me in my ear.
I think the best part of this whole story, though, was that, I mean, apart from you kind of like gagging a little bit, all the village kids that were down there with us all picked up mud and started slinging it at you.
They all... And look, I'm going to tell you right now, these kids in this jungle, every single one of them could be playing MLB. Not only do they throw fast, they throw accurate.
Yeah.
From a long distance away.
So then Tommy had to turn around and get back.
So then I had no choice.
Right. That was the whole point.
I know, but
it worked.
But the look on my face, I'm sure, was like serious. Because I was like, I'm done. I'm good.
Right.
My sweat will cleanse me. No.
Your bougie sweat.
And I couldn't hit none of them kids. We had a mud fight then. So you started a mud fight. And it was fun, but I couldn't hit none of them.
No. And you didn't get sick. You did fine.
Well, I came home. I got sick, bad sick. But that's.
I mean, I guess that's another.
That may have been something from eating that.
That's probably Burger King in Bogota.
No. Yeah, or that buzzard that was killed and cooked for us.
And we ate. Yeah.
I don't know.
Wild jungle buzzard.
It was stringy.
Yeah.
But what I love about just they didn't then, except that one village house, didn't have the technology distractions. Remember the one house had like a satellite TV. I have no idea how they got that out there, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, it makes time go so much slower. I mean, even this time.
Which is not a bad thing.
It's not. It's not. It's amazing how addicted we are to quick now. Give it to me. And, but the ladies, I mean, we had gotten up, we had done a medical clinic, we had had our devotional, we had breakfast and everything. And I mean, we were just like, whew, it was 10:30. They were like, "Are you kidding me right now?" But yeah, that's how.
Did the power stay on the whole time?
No, power was on from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay. Well,
so, which worked great for night, right? I could use the projector and those kinds of things. And we charged our phones.
Run my air conditioner when I go there.
But I tell you, I'll leave you guys with this. We're out of time, unfortunately, but, Nuncio, my friend, when he leads worship, he plays a guitar. It's never the right chords. He never sings in the right key, but he weeps, and it's from his heart, and it is so powerful. And I love it. Church is simple as far as following the Lord and pursuing Him and just loving Him with all that you are. And man, it's so good. So
yeah, I miss that. So hey, I'm gonna go back next time.
Come on.
Well, no, I mean,
I love it. It's awesome.
I'm like a regular villager.
Yeah. So all of that to say, if you're listening and you've never been, whatever fears or excuses that you have, I just ask that you pray about it and let the Lord lead you. Lay those things aside, step out in faith, and just watch what the Lord can do with the way that He's gifted you and can use you. And so, just like on this trip, the Lord used medical, He used art, He used a puppet show for us to communicate the gospel. And so I encourage you, step out in faith and see what the Lord does. Thank you guys for tuning in.